Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hogstye. We just did a show, and now we're doing another one, Steve. It's still you and me. Jamal's still on vacation. Hi there to our audience. I hope you all are having a good, well, maybe some of you had the long weekend for President's Day. I don't know. I feel like we have a higher number of probably government workers just because of who our team is.
Well, you know, President's Day has become less of a thing.
Right.
Because it used to be years ago that Martin Luther King Day wasn't really a holiday for anybody.
Right.
And then there was Lincoln's, and the reason why, in case anybody is too old, young to remember this, the reason why there's a President's Day at all is that Lincoln and Washington's birthday were both in February, and there used to be a Lincoln's Day and a Washington Day, and that's too many holidays in one, so they just combined it and called it President's Day.
Yeah.
But now that Martin Luther King this day has become more of a holiday, and is it a federal holiday now?
It is. It's been a federal holiday almost my whole life.
Okay, in the years ago, it didn't used to be a federal holiday, and certainly like private business didn't do that. So now that King Day is a holiday, then a lot of businesses don't take President's Day like they used to.
Since we're in President's Day weekend, I'm going to segue into one thing that is a huge gripe of mine that the NFL needs to fix. Just make sure the Super Bowl is played this weekend. Like, figure out your schedule so that you naturally have a 3-day weekend on the Super Bowl.
Well, the thing is, though, Alex, that they don't want that because it would hurt ratings.
I don't know if it really would or not in the end. It's the Super Bowl. People
love
the Super Bowl.
Listen, I mean, people on vacation on 3-day weekends.
Yeah.
They in NFL and networks and entertainment people avoid 3-day weekends like the plague for that reason.
So that's why the Super Bowl they'll never create a day off after the Super Bowl for stupid people.
Well, because there shouldn't be a day off after the Super Bowl.
No, they shouldn't create a holiday for it. That would be stupid. Yes. I agree.
Then what are you saying?
Well, I'm saying you just move it to a natural holiday weekend.
Well, but again, that's just terrible for ratings.
I mean,
that's
NASCAR
like ratings.
Daytona's
disaster.
This weekend. You know.
But they have NASCAR has got big races every weekend. They're going to have a race no matter what.
But isn't Daytona still the alpha? I mean, you know that.
It's one of them. I mean, it's certainly a big race.
Yeah, I think it's the big one. But
anyway. I mean, think about network TV. I mean, network TV probably reruns.
Probably. I honestly don't know. I don't watch network TV anymore unless it's football. So.
Well, it is kind of funny to say that. I mean, most of the big new shows, even those produced by networks, are streaming now.
Oh yeah.
Like, for example, that new we talked about. I don't want to do it again.
The Fresh Prince one.
Yeah, that's on Paramount. Not Paramount.
Peacock.
Yeah, Peacock.
Yeah.
As opposed to network NBC.
Right. Paramount's got a bunch of new stuff. That is weird. I mean, they've just gone in.
Chris has talked multiple times about the history of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
On our IJB show, and apparently I didn't know. I don't watch it. I didn't know all this, but apparently it started as a streaming thing on Peacock. And,
okay.
And then moved to Paramount and then network. It's had a whole history, but it was started originally as a streaming thing.
Huh? I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't either. He knows all about it.
Yeah. Well, he knows more. He knows TV more than I do, which isn't saying something. All right. So this show, guys, just for our audience, so you know, we're gonna start doing continue doing our preview stuff. We have 2 position groups we need to get to. One we've been putting off for a while just because of the schedule, and we got to do linebackers and quarterbacks today. So we're going to focus on those and a little bit more about the Dan Snyder stuff that's going on after that, just to give our audiences an understanding.
And listen, we were supposed to start a draft coverage by now, and mainly because I'm an idiot and I wrote this schedule out and then I forgot to follow it. So we're going to catch up on the draft next week, and it'll be a draft and free agents weekend entirely, absent some major Washington news.
Which, you know, 75% chance that happens anyway. All right.
Some disaster will strike. Don't worry.
Steve, I'm going to let you flip the coin. Do you want to do linebackers or quarterbacks first?
Oh, let's start with quarterbacks.
Okay, quarterbacks. Quarterbacks is always a fun one because I think everyone loves talking quarterbacks all the time. At least if you follow Twitter, that's all people are freaking arguing about forever.
That's why we're doing it first.
Yes. All right. Washington desperately needs a quarterback, folks. I think that's not a news bulletin for any of you out there. We're going to focus on the guys who are going to be free agents. Now, when we say free agents, let's be clear. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, those names are not free agents. So we're not talking about them. All right. We're strictly
Correct.
talking about the guys whose contracts are expiring.
That would be the only way Washington will get one of those two players is in an obscenely large trade.
Right. And by the way, it's looking like both of them are going to be sticking around where they are. That's just
Is anybody shocked by this? I mean,
No.
are you guys out there so naive as to think that one, they would want to leave those situations for Washington,
right.
and two, Washington be willing to like sell their soul to the devil, Charlie Daniels style, to give away all those assets to get those guys? It was never realistic. I mean,
Do we get
seriously.
a gold football if we win in that deal with the devil?
Yeah. Instead of a golden fiddle. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, and even if they wanted to leave, why
Right.
do you think they would want to come to Washington?
Right.
Let's go to the team with the total disaster in the front office.
Right. So Watson also not going to be mentioned here. By the way, it looks like he wants to go to Minnesota. That's the latest rumor. So
That's funny.
yeah, that's
Minnesota.
Right.
Aren't they paying a guy named Kirk Cousins a butt
$1 trillion
ton of money?
a year? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So why don't I'm just going to run through the list. Who wrote this one up? You
I
did.
wrote this.
Oh, why don't you run through the list then? Since
You can
wrote
run
it.
through it. It's fine, but I'll do it. So, okay. So here's the thing. This free agent quarterback class stinks.
Right.
The way I always do my free agent write-ups is top tier, mid tier, and then some random throw-in possibility types. Well,
Mhm.
this year I studied it, and I couldn't come up with a top tier. And so they're all basically mid tier and below. So that's where we're going to start, is mid tier.
All right.
I put Teddy Bridgewater at the top of this list. I
Interesting.
know some of you would have Jameis Winston. I will get to him. I put Teddy Bridgewater at top. And again, this is not your franchise quarterback.
No.
But I think of this bunch, I think he has the most talent. I think he's had the most success. And granted, he had that horrible knee injury and all of that. He was on a pretty good trajectory when that happened. And then he made a mistake, and he went to the Jets, and he was traded to the Saints. He's been around. He signed with the Panthers in 2020 after Ron Rivera left. Important to say that. But I mean, he's got a quarterback rating of 90.7, career quarterback rating, 66% completion percentage, 2.2% interception percentage. Even with his knee injury, he's fairly athletic. He was a full-time starter last year, started 14 games, 94.9 quarterback rating. I think the guy can be a decent bridge quarterback if Washington wants to go that route. Nobody thinks, I'm not saying he's going to be John Elway or Mark Rippon, for you Washington fans, but I think he could be a guy who could come in and be a real quarterback.
Bridgewater's an interesting one to me. To me, he's always kind of been just a league average quarterback. Even before his injury, he wasn't great, but he was at least competent and average. He does have a little mobility, not a whole lot. He's just struggled ever since that knee injury. Like, he had 3 or 4 good games playing with the Saints. And ever since then, it's just been hard to watch, honestly, with them.
I mean, last year it wasn't too bad, though, really. I mean, if you look at, I hear what you're saying. I think you're right. I mean, he was never really the same after that knee injury. For whatever reason, it was a horrible knee injury. Let's be honest.
It took him 2 years to get back from it.
Well, yeah. So
it was Alex Smith level, though. I remember.
Yeah, it was. It was like he almost lost his leg.
Yeah.
But listen, last year,
I remember that line actually when he got hurt.
67% completion percentage.
That's pretty good.
Over 3,000 yards in 14 games. Mm-hmm. Only 7 interceptions. I think he did well, and I think he could come in and he could be competent. So I mean, I think Teddy Bridgewater is the safest. He's not a moron like Jameis Winston. I know Jamal loves him. Jameis Winston's a moron,
right?
Mentally, and that's Teddy Bridgewater. Isn't that he's a pro?
Right.
So I think Bridgewater is the top of the heap.
Well, so let's go to the next guy on the list, because to me, this of the mid-level guys, this is probably who I'd say is the
This
top
is your
guy.
guy?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Tyrod Taylor is who Alex is talking about here.
Yeah.
That was who I had ranked number 2. His career history, he started in Baltimore, moved to Buffalo, moved to Cleveland, moved to the Chargers, moved to Houston. He's been everywhere.
Yeah, he's another Ryan Fitzpatrick drifter,
Yeah, and the reason why I put him a little lower than Teddy Bridgewater is his career numbers aren't quite as good. 61% completion percentage, 88 quarterback rating. Does have a lower interception percentage. That's good. But he hadn't had quite as much success. And then also last year, he only played 6 games for the Texans.
Well, he did get that weird injury. Yeah.
Yeah. With only 60% completion percentage, 76 quarterback rating, and granted, the Texans are horrible. And that matters. But to me, he's just a step down from Bridgewater. So that's why I put him 2. So tell me why he's better.
And forgive me, his injury was what, a year before, not last year. That thing where they punctured his lung.
Right. Yeah. That was the year before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember, the Texans ended up starting Davis Mills.
Right. But to me, Taylor could make a lot of sense because, one, we've seen him kind of do this where he comes in, he can be a game manager, and that's what he is. He is a game manager type quarterback at this point. He can do that while you bring in some rookie, some younger guy to hopefully develop. So really with all these guys, all we're looking for is a guy who can be a little bit better than Taylor Heineke, who can fill in and, give you time to develop somebody younger. That's kind of what you're looking for at this point.
Yeah, and listen, I think Taylor could do that as well, for sure.
Yeah.
I just kind of like Bridgewater
could too.
a little bit better.
Both of them are about the same.
Yeah.
Just different playing style.
And I know it's kind of fashionable to hate on Taylor Heineke. And I mean, nobody's going to claim he's an all-pro, but I do think he did better than some of y'all out there did. And it went south for sure in the second half of the season, and decision-making kind of went a little haywire. But I mean, at that point, the team had fallen apart. Like Taylor was the type of guy, when things are going well, he could do well.
Yeah. I think if you really broke down his numbers by like how many weapons he had left.
Oh, it's a disaster at the end.
Yeah. His numbers when everyone was healthy, okay. As soon as they lost their tight end, as soon as who's the other big weapon we lost?
Well, Curtis Samuel was never there.
I don't count. He was never there.
J.D. McKissick went out.
That's the other one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but Logan Thomas goes out, his yardage drops by like 50 yards a game.
I mean, it's like at some point, even Richard Petty's going to lose a race if you put him in a Hyundai.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Tyrod Taylor. I had Andy Dalton ranked number 3. Now, Andy Dalton is 100. Granted, he's been around. He's 34. And by the way, Taylor is no spring chicken. He's 32.
All these guys are older at this point.
Yeah, Bridgewater's 32. Usually I discount anybody over 30 for these things, but there would be no list, for quarterbacks if I did that.
I mean, look, and anyone over 30 in this tier, you're only bringing him in for a year or two. Like, that's just what it is. Right. I'm not a Dalton guy. I think he's, like, shot at this point.
So here's his numbers. Career 150. So he obviously was in Cincinnati forever. Right. Moved to Dallas for 2020 season. He was in Chicago, for those of you who don't realize.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was the Justin Fields bridge dude last year.
Oh, right.
Yeah, only played 8 games. Fields came in and started the rest of them. Career-wise, 62% completion percentage, 2.7 interception rating, which is higher, notice, than Bridgewater and Taylor both. 87 quarterback rating. Did have a ton of talent in Cincinnati, in AJ Green, and had some running backs and stuff. Never got it done. Last year, played 8 games, as I said, 63% completion percentage, 76.9 quarterback rating. I'm not saying he's anything but an emergency stopgap. I mean, I think he's a backup. But in this market, also, there ain't much else. It's not a great quarterback market.
Well, the big red flag, of course, last year, looking at those numbers that you have in the article, 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in 8 games.
Yeah, that's not good.
You can't work with that, honestly. That's why he needs to ride off in the sunset. He's 34. He's had a great career for a 4th-round pick or whatever he was.
He can
salute
go
to
be
you.
a backup. I'm not going to disparage him for making money. You know, he
Well,
can stay as long as he wants. But I'm not I don't think teams should view him as a starter
no,
unless
no,
they really
I
have.
wouldn't bring him in to compete for a starting job. Correct. I would if you have an established starter, yeah, bring him in. You know where he should be? He should be in Green Bay behind Aaron Rodgers
He's a
because
great backup.
yeah, that Love kid was awful. So that's where he needs to go.
But I mean, this is where we are with this free agent class. So, and again,
Right.
I'm not ignoring Jameis. We're going to get to him.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm scrolling way. Oh, there he is.
yeah. So I have Marcus Mariota next. Marcus Mariota, if you guys recall, was at the University of Oregon. He was the number 2 draft pick overall.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't pan out. He was with the Titans, when he was drafted, moved to the Raiders, hadn't played much with the Raiders. So as a career numbers thing, 62% completion percentage, 2.5% interception percentage, 77 touchdowns, 45 interceptions, has barely played at all for the last 2 years. And that's the main reason why I put him behind Dalton. At least Dalton's played. This dude has not. He's sat behind Derek Carr at the Raiders. Right. He threw last year threw two passes, completed 4 yards. So, I mean, he's been.
He hadn't played. Look it up. He's run the ball a few times more, though.
Yeah, he has run the ball, a little bit. But, I mean, that's not what I'm looking for in a passer. And is he terrible? No. Is he a starter? No. This is a guy who isn't even a bridge to a starter. This is like a backup. I mean, I think Marcus Mariota realistically is only a backup.
He is kind of a wild card.
Little bit.
I mean,
sure.
Look, obviously he was a highly drafted player. Like that factors in quite a bit in my mind. By the way, he had 13 rushes for 87 yards, so it wasn't like they used him a ton. It's not like he was a wildcat or anything. He's a guy who, if you wanted to take a gamble, he's probably the best one to take a gamble on, just because he does have a high ceiling. He was a first-round pick starter at one point, and just didn't pan out for Tennessee. But Tennessee was also kind of a mess when they drafted him.
Well, this is also what you're saying is why I put him ahead of some of these other guys.
Yeah. Like
if you're going to take a flyer on somebody, he'd be a decent guy to take a flyer on. But don't expect him to come in here and be a 3-year starter bridge to the next Joe Theismann, because that's
right.
Probably not
No. I wouldn't expect. He's a guy you could definitely say, come in, compete with Heineke, and the best of you two can be the starter this year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I agree.
He's that, and this next guy is kind of that too.
Yeah, and I'm going to move on because we do have a lot to talk about here. Jacoby Brissette is next on my list. This is a guy who's also moved around, a bunch. He's drafted by the Patriots. He was with the Colts for a while, backed up Andrew Luck. Because remember, Andrew Luck had a whole bunch of really serious injuries, missed years at a time. And so Brissette had years where he was a starter and then years where he didn't do anything. He backed up Phillip Rivers in 2020. He was with the Dolphins last year. So he's played in 67 games, 37 starts, 60% completion percentage, 1.4 percent interception percentage. I realized I typed completion percentage. That was supposed to be interception percentage. 83 quarterback rating. Not that good. Last year he played 11 games because Tua got hurt, remember. Completed 62% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 78 quarterback rating. He's not that good. He's a backup, another guy that you could come in and say, okay, compete with Taylor. But I think he's if you ask me to choose between Mariota and Brissette, I'd choose Mariota just because a little bit more natural talent.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there.
Okay, so I saved Jameis Winston for the bottom of this list, not because he has the least amount of talent. He probably has the most talent. Mainly, this guy is coming off of an ACL injury at the end of October.
Right.
Okay. He was put on IR on November 2nd. So I don't know how realistic it is to think that he's going to be totally healthy, totally ready to go, 10 months away from an ACL injury. That's why I put him at the bottom of the list. It has nothing to do with his talent. I do think as a study in intellectualism, he's a train wreck. I mean, for sure. He's an idiot. He's done all sorts of stupid things, no doubt. But from a quarterbacking standpoint of this mediocre list, I might take him above Bridgewater. But
raw talent wise, he's number one. Injury and the other stuff, yeah.
Yeah, right. And the reason why I put him as number 6 is only because of the injury.
Mm-hmm.
For the mental reasons, I probably would have put him behind Bridgewater as number 2. But the injury just, I mean, we don't know. I mean, yeah, I put a link to this viral video, that went around, but we also saw Terrell Pryor do this, and it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Who knows?
Well, I mean, at least it shows that his knee is recovering okay.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, he's not on crutches.
Yeah, it doesn't mean he could take a hit. But
no.
So his numbers, 83 games, 77 starts, 61% completion percentage, 3.3 interception percentage, career 87.8 quarterback rating. So he started off, and that was, by the way, where was he last year? I've even, he was obviously originally drafted with the Saints. He was drafted by Tampa, moved to the Saints. Now, Dave, our colleague Dave, is a big Winston fan and wrote a whole column about how Washington could be helped by bringing in Jameis Winston. So you can read that if you want. My view of him is, again, I think he's an idiot pretty much. But Dave's right about, one thing. He's a gunslinger, kind of he's not mobile like Brett Favre, but he's sort of in that kind of mold of Brett Favre in terms of passing. He's going to take risks. That's why he has a really high interception percentage. So, I memean, yeah, if he's healthy, somebody Washington could take a shot at, to be a bridge to someone else.
Yeah. I can't get past that. What was it? 30 interception season he had? That's insane.
Yeah, 30 is crazy. 30 interceptions.
Yeah, I can't get past that.
So the desperation list. Right. I called it Desperation City in the column. For those of you who are Mitchell Trubisky fans, stop. Mitchell Trubisky sucks. Mitchell Trubisky will never be a starting quarterback. Mitchell Trubisky has sucked, sucks now, and will suck in the future. He's not an NFL starter, in my view. But I know a lot of you like him, and a lot of you think Ron Rivera likes him. So who knows? But I think Mitchell Trubisky sucks.
I mean, that is the word that Rivera likes him.
Yeah, but he sucks.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. But I just want to make it clear that Mitchell Trubisky sucks. I think he's worse than his numbers indicate also. He's got a decent 87 quarterback rating, not horrible. 64% completion percentage, not terrible. But Mitchell Trubisky sucks. Cam Newton is next on my list. Cam Newton is old and washed up. I put him on here only because he was with Ron Rivera for 9 years. Now, obviously, Rivera passed on him in favor of Kyle Allen.
Right.
So, but is it impossible to think that Ron would bring Newton in if he was really desperate? I don't think it's impossible to think that.
I mean, look, Newton's done. We've all seen it now with two different teams. He just doesn't have it. And I mean, when he came out of college, I remember people saying the way he plays football, he wasn't going to have a long career.
And that proved to be true.
Right. Because you can't be a fullback and a quarterback at the same time and just get that beat up.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. He just got too beat up. Okay, and so the next one, the last one, I hate to say it, but I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is totally impossible. We have no idea what the status of his injury is at all, his hip. Apparently he was like shirtless at a Bills game.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who say it looks like he's probably going to retire based off of like how he's
Although,
acting.
If like Ron Rivera came to him and said, "We'll pay you $8 million," he'd probably do it,
Right. Yeah.
So again, who knows what his health is like at all. I'm just saying Ron signed him once. So is it that crazy to think Ron would sign him again? It's at least not a good possibility, but it's a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's agent quarterbacks.
Yep. There's your quarterbacks. I think I've realized that we're just not going to get one of these trades pulled off. They can talk all they want. I don't see it happening.
Well, because the main thing is, I went over this. Didn't I write a column about? I think I wrote a column about this, or I did a tweet or something. So Russell Wilson has a ginormous cap hit.
Right.
You'd have to have. Yeah. So what would have to happen is, yes, neither one of them have no trade clauses. So yes, they could be traded, but Washington can't take that kind of cap hit on without redoing their contracts to lower the cap hit, which would mean extending them, one, and two would mean they'd have to sign said contracts, which basically means they would have veto power over a trade to Washington. And who would want to come to Washington? Who would want to leave Green Bay or Seattle to come to Washington?
Right. Right. And I don't think Carr is going to have. I just don't see any of these big names getting traded. Well, honestly, you got to get one of these guys. I hate to say.
And would you want to trade 3 number 1 picks and a player and more for a 38-year-old Aaron Rodgers? I would.
No. Here's my thing. I'm not trading more picks than the years I think that guy's got left. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Aaron Rodgers is probably done in a year or two. You're going to be out multiple first rounders for 2 years of good quarterback
for a
play.
team that's nowhere close to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry for those of you who think that, but they're not. It's free. See, now not being a fan anymore, it's freeing me to even say even more than I did before. And the thing about Russell Wilson, I've always felt, I don't know how you feel, but I think he needs a very, very specific offense.
I mean, I think that ideally, yeah, but it's the same offense Heineke needs. These small guys need the identical, roll out, get open so that you can see the field. These guys are both runners after they, if no one's open.
Russell Wilson is actually a magnified version of that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't think Wilson uses his receivers for as much success as he's had. Notice who succeeds. Sometimes it isn't like these very precise route runners because he holds the ball so long that it doesn't do well for the guys like that. Like DK Metcalf is a dude who can just go out there and outrun and outjump everybody, and he's doing well, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, why don't we move on, talk about these linebackers, since that's the other group we have. Honestly, when you think about this defense, even though they spent a first-round pick on a linebacker, and Cole Holcomb, everyone hates on him, but he's a decent, average NFL linebacker, they still desperately need a good linebacker on this defense. So Jamal wrote this one up. You can go back. It was written on February 11th. So if
we
you
got behind because of the Snyder stuff.
We kind of got bogged down. All right, I'm just going to run through the names of potential free agents that he has here. Christian Kirksey?
Not Kirksey.
Kirksey.
Yeah.
That's a weird name, man. Is that like Kirk Cousins' pet name for himself? Kirksey?
Yes, Kirksey. Kirksey's here. Kirksey in the house.
Yeah. All right. So he is a 29-year-old linebacker.
Kirk Cousins would. That's exactly what kind of thing Kirk Cousins would say too.
Yeah, exactly. So Kirksey is Houston Texan, 29. He's been a journeyman a bit, Cleveland and Green Bay. But he had 93 tackles according to Jamal, so that's pretty good for a season. Yeah.
Any starting linebacker.
Yeah.
Should probably be up in that range.
Right. Well, and that's one of the problems we've seen with this team is honestly they don't have a guy who's just the volume linebacker anymore.
No, I mean Holcomb's the only guy who's remotely close to that.
Yeah. What did Holcomb have? He had around 100, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But your top linebacker should have 100 plus every year.
So here's Kirksey. 6'2", 235, really an outside linebacker. Ran a 4.7 at the combine. Spent a bunch of years in Cleveland.
Right.
Originally drafted a 3rd-round pick by the Cleveland Browns, 2014. Moved to Green Bay, then moved to Houston, which is where he was last year. So yeah, I mean at his peak in Cleveland, he was that mass tackle guy, 148 tackles in 2016. But he's fallen off dramatically since then for a variety of reasons.
Yeah. All right. Next guy that he has listed, Anthony Walker Jr., probably the biggest name on the list this offseason.
Yeah.
Still not a huge guy, 6'1", 235. He was with Cleveland this year after playing middle linebacker in Indy for the first 4 years of his, career. Missed a couple games last year. It looks like 4 games. Did Jamal say what did he have COVID or did he get hurt? I don't know. Jamal doesn't
hamstring.
Have hamstring?
Yeah.
Okay. Hamstring. But another guy who, he gets around 100 tackles a year, so he's a high volume guy. The fact that he played middle linebacker in Indy to me would be the big thing, because this team needs somebody who knows how to play middle linebacker. We've got 2 weak side guys.
One of them a middle linebacker.
Yeah, nothing at middle linebacker, and we really don't even have a strong side guy. So,
although I think Cole Holcomb, I don't know. I mean, part of me I think Cole Holcomb is a bit of a tweener as a 4-3 linebacker, because Cole, you might in one hand you might think he's sort of more of a pursuit guy, but he's terrible in coverage, and he's not that fast or athletic. And so that maybe would tell you more strong side. But on the other hand, I'm not sure he's really at the level of a true big time 4-3 strong side linebacker. So
he would need to bulk up, I feel like, to really.
Yeah, I think so. Now, in terms of Anthony Walker, this was Jamal's pick.
Yeah.
This is who Jamal liked the best. I mean, he's younger. He's only 26. So is this a guy who could come in and be a starter? Sure. Absolutely. Are they going to spend? They ought to spend money on the linebacker group, because recall the status of Washington's linebacker group. Right. I guess I should have said this ahead, in front. Obviously, in terms of quarterbacks, I should have said too. I mean, Taylor Heineke's the only quarterback on the roster right now. Kyle Allen is a restricted free agent, so they'll probably bring him back, but they haven't done that yet.
Right.
So in terms of linebackers, though, the linebacker group is what you would call a problem. Okay.
Yeah. Thin, very thin.
Yeah. And by thin, we mean they have 5 of them. David Mayo, the only middle linebacker, then Jamin Davis, Dejon Harris, Cole Holcomb, Khalid Hudson. That's the entirety of the linebacker group. Right. So of those guys, if you want to call Jamin Davis a starter by default for another year, so there you go. He's going to play. Cole Holcomb, but Dejon Harris and Khalid Hudson, tweeners at best, back of the roster types. David Mayo, certainly not the starter level middle linebacker that you would want. So it's a serious problem.
I'm going to be honest. Like, you look at that list, what is it with this coaching staff loving these small linebackers? Or, I know they're not small, but they've
got a bunch of tweeners.
Yeah, they all play small in my mind.
I don't get it, because I mean,
except for Mayo. Mayo's a big guy.
But you've got 2 old school traditional linebackers in Del Rio and Jack, right, and Ron Rivera, and yet they're bringing in these Khalid Hudson types. Yeah, I don't get it either.
But they all fit that mold, right?
Yeah,
like,
they do.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So point is, Washington would be fools to not bring in a linebacker of some type.
Right. They need to find a London Fletcher. They need to find somebody who just loves to sit there and beat people up. That's all London. Because remember, even when London Fletcher was really, really old and couldn't move anymore, he just sat there, and if you got within like his circle, then he could get you.
He couldn't really move anymore, but if you came to him, he could hit you.
Yeah. Basically, he just stood there in the middle of the field and said, "Don't go here."
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Quan Alexander was next on.
Yeah, he's an interesting one.
He's a name, more of a name than the others, I want to say.
Sure. That's fair. And he was injured, or he's had a couple injuries.
Torn ACL, torn pec, torn Achilles, elbow injury. He's had a ton of, injuries. But I think he's got some level of talent, know. And again, I mean, he's more of a name, and so I think people would probably gravitate to him just for that reason. He's not that big, 6'1", 227. If you want his history, a 4th round draft pick in Tampa, was with Tampa through 2018, moved to San Francisco, New Orleans, and he was with New Orleans last year. He's been a starter his whole career, though. I mean, I think the big thing, obviously, is injuries with him.
Yeah, and honestly, with this team's injury history, bringing in another guy with injury problems, probably not the smart move for Washington.
And by not the smart move, what he means is it would be nuts.
Yeah. We don't have the best medical staff. So,
no, or the best luck.
Yep. All right. Last on Jamal's list was Kenny Young out of Denver, 26 years old. So another young guy. No pun intended. Sorry.
He's another young guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He was with Baltimore. He was with LA. So he's kind of traveled around a lot. He is how big is Kenny Young?
He's 6'1",
Jamal doesn't put the size in his things. 6'1", 234. So he's not huge.
No, but that's thicker than a lot of these other guys. So that would lend you to believe that he's more of a traditional middle linebacker because he's about 10 pounds heavier, a little shorter, a little bulkier. To me, the problem with Kenny Young is he's never been a consistent starter.
Right. He said.
Aside from last year. Last year he was, but before that he hadn't been at all.
Yeah, I looking at, he's played 59 games, 25 starts, so he's only started about half the games he played in.
Right.
But the nice thing about guys like that is sometimes you can get them cheaper, and if you think you can develop them, it's worthwhile. So, that kind of player is a little tricky, bigger gamble. I think we're both in agreement they need to spend some real money on linebacker this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't think the fans would be happy if their answer is Kenny Young.
No. Well, look, despite what we were talking about earlier with the draft picks on this team, I do trust Ron Rivera to at least know what a good linebacker should look like.
On the other end, he drafted Jamin Davis in round 1.
Yeah, well, there's a whole thing there. But just go get Anthony Walker if he's available. Like look at the list, ask yourself who's the best linebacker available, Ron, and just go after him because that's what you need to do at this point.
And by the way, the reason why he moved last year, so I was looking up, I'd forgotten this. He was traded in October to the Broncos. So that's why, for a 6th round pick, just to give somebody the idea of his value.
Yeah. So the nice thing about him is he wouldn't break the bank.
No, he would not.
Yeah. All right, so that wraps up the linebacker part of this discussion. So there we go. We have linebackers and we have quarterbacks done today. All right, so I guess we should get into a little bit of what's going on with the team.
Yes.
There's a small update with the investigation that the NFL is doing that we'll get into. Should also mention that the tight ends coach retired. That was announced yesterday. Apparently, I didn't realize how good the tight ends coach Washington had was. But when you look at the names of all the tight ends he'd coached up over the years, it's like Vernon Davis, obviously Greg Olsen. He'd been with Rivera for over a decade.
Well, let's get the man's name right, first of all, because neither one of us obviously have it in front of us, which is why we haven't said it. I think is it Horner?
Yes.
Bob Horner, right?
Pete Horner.
Pete Horner. Yeah. So, I mean, the team universally praised him. The players praised him. Everybody praised him. Certainly had success. Best of luck in your retirement. I don't blame you for wanting to leave a train wreck, with your pride intact. So I don't blame you.
Yeah. And he was he'd been there 24 seasons. He'd been coaching in the NFL, coaching tight ends. That's a good run.
Not a bad carear.
Yeah. And again, there's like 3 or 4 Hall of Famers if you look at the list of where he was and who was there. So he got a lot of talent out.
He probably made a good amount of money too.
Probably. I know position coaches don't make a fortune, but
but that's by NFL standards. I mean, by regular person standards, he's doing pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, they still probably make millions over that type of career.
Yeah,
tens
definitely.
of millions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's being replaced, just so you know, by Juan Castillo, who is an O-line coach. He worked with Rivera way back in Philly, I heard. So, it's just Ron being like, I know this guy. Let's bring him in.
I don't know how he can teach somebody to run patterns and be a receiver, but, a lot of what the tight end coach does is just walk these guys from the O-line room to the receiver room anyway, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, and honestly, if you were to say, what does this team need more help with that tight end? It's blocking, not.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up Castillo's bio. Make sure he's also up there, by the way. He's 62. So I would imagine we're not going to see him very long.
How old is Ron? Ron is almost 62, isn't he?
He's got to be in his early 60s, yeah.
They've got like a geriatric set for coaches.
By the way, Juan Castillo's done a little bit of everything. Looking at his bio, he's been an O-line coach, tight ends coach, defensive coordinator, run game coordinator, and then he went back to being an O-line coach and analyst. So he's he's jumped around, man.
Done it all.
Yeah. Oh, and defensive line and linebackers in college, he coached. So
this is that people hire people that they're comfortable with, sort of hiring.
Right. I do remember him vaguely being there in Philly with Rivera way back in the day.
Vaguely. I sort of remember that too.
I mean, it was over 20 years ago.
Could they do better? Maybe.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, again, it's a closed circle. You're not going to go hire some fancy tight ends coach out of like McNeese State or somewhere. That's just never going to happen.
Yeah, you're not going to go find the next Sean McVay, have him be your tight ends coach, and then have him be your head coach.
No.
Just you don't get that lucky.
No.
But I don't mind that kind of hire, honestly. Juan Castillo's been around forever, so like he knows what he's doing.
If I were a fan of the team, I wouldn't be upset. I don't know if I would care one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, yeah. All right. Let's talk about the Dan Snyder stuff, Steve, because it's a small one though. It's not like a bad day for him. The NFL announced that Joanne White is going to be the one doing the investigation of Dan Snyder.
Yeah, you say it's not a bad day for him, but
yes.
It's sort of like Satan showed up at your doorstep. Now, for those of you who don't know this, Mary Jo White.
Oh, Mary Jo White.
Yeah, you said Joanne. It's Mary Jo White. She's the one that investigated Jerry Richardson, which resulted in Jerry Richardson being voluntold to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, to be perfectly honest, there ain't much to investigate. Okay. There really aren't. I could do the investigation because really, there's no physical evidence. There's not going to be any physical evidence. There's no video. There isn't going to be video.
Mm-hmm.
What we have here is the word of Dan Snyder versus the word of one Tiffany Johnston, and possibly the word of Dan Snyder's lawyer, who may not say much because he's Dan Snyder's lawyer. Because recall that the story that they're investigating, for those of you who've forgotten this, is that Tiffany Johnston, at this inappropriate congressional hearing that was held, Tiffany Johnston said that Dan Snyder put his hand on her upper thigh under a table at a dinner. And then after that very same dinner, that very same night, tried to guide her into his limousine to do God knows what. And then Snyder's lawyer stepped in and said, according to Johnston, no, Dan, that's a terrible idea, to use her words.
Right.
So that is what this Mary Jo White's going to investigate. So I don't think it's as much of an investigation. If that's all she's doing, it's going to take 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And just so people know, if you don't know who she is, Mary Jo White's former SEC chair, and she was
Really, SEC chair, huh?
She was chair of the SEC for in 2013, but before that, she's the one who prosecuted John Gotti. So, yeah, and the 93 World Trade Center bombings. So
big time prosecutor, serious then.
Yes, she is a big time serious prosecutor.
So my
honestly,
Satan analogy,
taking this feels a little beneath her.
My Satan analogy isn't far off then. If you're a bad guy, then
yeah. If you are a troublemaker, she goes after him.
I mean, obviously, the $1 million question is anything she does going to result in Dan Snyder's professional death?
And we just don't know what's there. It doesn't seem like
it's
enough
going to be
there.
He said, she said. Nothing's there.
Yeah. But that's my point. Like, unless she really does a deep dive and finds something that we don't know about, I don't see it going much.
Because it matters. Yeah, I mean, it really matters what she was tasked to do specifically.
Right.
That matters, because if it's just to investigate the Tiffany Johnston stuff, well, I mean, like we said, I don't know. I mean, that's not going to
go very
That's
far.
not going to result in much. But if she's asked to like relook at everything, there's no telling what that could result in.
Right.
And so John Keim got a statement from the attorneys representing the former employees that are the accusers in Washington. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll read a part of it. Having a new investigator, this is a quote, having a new investigator with no such prior knowledge, meaning the knowledge that Beth Wilkinson had in her investigation, Having a new investigator no such prior knowledge, assess Ms. Johnson's allegations and Mr. Snyder's denial in a vacuum makes no sense at all. That said, we will discuss with Ms. Johnson her willingness to participate and are pleased that the NFL has agreed to make the results public. So that's the key. So what they're saying is, why on earth did they have to do this again? We already had somebody come in here. Why start over? But that's the important thing, is that the results will be made public this time.
Well, we can only hope.
No. The NFL has stated that it will be public.
That's the NFL saying that it's public.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right, because I had heard they were non-committal on that, so that's good.
Ben Standig reported this. So Standig reported Friday morning, late morning, NFL informed the House Oversight Committee today. This is a quote from Standig, that it hired attorney Mary Jo White to conduct an investigation of new allegations arising out of the recent committee roundtable involving the Redskins owner Dan Snyder, a league spokesman concerns. Findings will be made public.
Sure.
And he used the C word, not the name Redskins.
Okay. Gotcha. I figured. So the last thing I'll say on this, there was a little bit of a murmur last week. People were making a big deal about how, Beth Wilkinson actually had recommended that Snyder be forced to sell initially, but it never got made public. And other than the sports junkies, I guess, had put it out there. And I remember that. And everyone's acting like it's a new thing. I don't know why people are like, oh my gosh, didn't we all know that already?
People need to understand something. Beth Wilkinson was not brought in to investigate into right or wrong.
No.
Or to uncover the truth. Beth Wilkinson's job, as retained by Snyder and then the NFL, was to bury the truth and to do enough to make the public believe that the problem had been solved. Now, it didn't work, but nobody, if the NFL or Snyder, wanted to actually have this raw, naked truth uncovered in a report. Nobody wanted that. The public wanted that, but the owners didn't, because the whole goal was to protect ownership. Remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the tide, if the tide is turned, they're making the report public. Has the tide turned enough to where the owners are willing to let Dan Snyder hang himself? If they, if she finds evidence that he diddled somebody else, or, felt up some cheerleader or something like that, I mean, what happens if more comes out? This is why I've been saying it's not beyond the realm of possible that Dan Snyder's gone, because this investigation feels like it could possibly be not an intentional cover-up.
Right. But, we have a long way to go. It'll be interesting, because there's stuff we know he does that's shady, but I don't know if any of it's bad enough to get him gone. The sending goons around to tell people to keep quiet, that's bad. But is that bad enough? You know what I mean? As an example.
I mean, what got Jerry Richardson gone? Sexual misconduct allegations against him directly.
Right.
He used a racial term. Donald Sterling was having an affair with some 20-something-year-old babe and called her racial names, and it got recorded. Gone.
Right.
What got Marge Schott gone? She was a horrible, terrible human being who's burning in hell right now, who referred to her players as slaves and all. She was a terrible person. Gone. Yes, it takes more than Dan Snyder being a miserable owner. I think it will take either something more to the Tiffany Johnston story. Is it Johnson? Johnston.
Yeah.
I think it's Johnston. It'll take something more to her story, or someone else that he did the same thing to.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, there's a settlement out there. Maybe she uncovers you remember that there's a $1.5 million settlement the team paid to somebody.
Right.
And we don't know what it was because it's covered by confidentiality agreement. Well, what if this Mary Jo White woman figures out what it is? What if it's another thing like this?
That is the $1 million. That is the $1 million thing there. Of course. I mean, if you find out that what's going on, but he settled it, so I don't know.
The settlement is not an indication of guilt. It's a settlement, and I understand. But my point is, what if she uncovers it, and what if it's bad? I'm just throwing things out there that could indicate where you could possibly get to a point where Dan Snyder really is gone. That's what I'm
Sure.
saying.
I mean, I honestly, there's enough that we know that's out there from these other investigations that I would have thought were bad enough. So I don't know what's bad enough at this point.
But again, the owners don't want to
Right.
crucify one of their own because they know they're a half step from this themselves. Most of
Yeah.
them.
I mean, as
for
we saw
God's
with
sakes,
Dallas last week.
Robert Kraft got busted in a rub and tug in South Florida. For God's sakes.
Right.
Think about that for a minute. Robert Kraft got busted in a rub and tug.
Mm-hmm. Jim Irsay had a criminal amount, like a felony amount of drugs on him, and he was arrested at one point.
Nothing happened. They suspended him for a while, which meant he had to watch games from his TV for however long it was.
The owner of the Browns, he had that whole federal investigation.
Almost got indicted. He owns the Flying J truck stops, and the feds were ended up indicting like one level below him.
Right. And then who's the Vikings owner got in trouble a while back?
Yeah, Ziggy Wilf or whatever.
Yeah,
right. I can't remember what it was.
He got ousted. But
I mean, it's none of these owners are innocent.
I mean, honestly, the reason it's still going is I think there's a theory with most human beings. If I beat you enough with a stick, are you eventually going to go away? And that's literally what they're trying to do to Daniel Snyder.
How many times has Jerry Jones been photographed drunk in a bar with a bunch of 20-something babes around him?
Right. A billion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just what he's been photographed doing.
Right.
So these owners are not innocent. But, I mean, the difference is Dan Snyder has now been accused of legitimate, albeit minor, in the grand scheme of things, but legitimate sexual misconduct. Yes. And on top of that, she's an employee.
Right.
His subordinate. So it's bad, but I just think Mary Jo White's going to have to come up with something other than what was already stated. Otherwise, there's no point, and nothing's going to happen because they don't need her if she doesn't find anything else.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm not going to get my hopes up.
How would you like to be Tanya Snyder? Have to smile and pretend this doesn't exist.
Well, we talked about that off the air the other day.
I know, but I'm not going to say what I said off the air. I'm saying
no.
Just,
but if you want to know my answer, it's very similar to what we talked about
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'll shut up. Tell you what, I'll be quiet.
Yes, Tanya Snyder is just probably rolling around in a pile of money and doesn't care in the end.
Yeah. Well, yes. That's probably true.
Yeah. I wonder more about what the kids think. Because Steve, I have hope for the future and the children of the future. So.
You know how many rich millionaire kids are screwed up?
Yeah, I know.
A lot of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his son's in college playing football right now. Is his daughter out of college now? I don't know. I don't know. I think the daughter was older, so I don't know what they're doing.
How can Dan Snyder's kid be playing college football? I don't understand.
I don't know. I know he is. He's at some third tier school. He's playing on a really small team.
How can he possibly be more than 5'7" and have any athletic ability at all, considering who his father is?
Yeah, and I think he plays tight end.
Does he really?
Yeah.
It's like, is this?
I'll have to look it up.
Is the father really like the pool maintenance guy or something, or what?
Well, maybe Dan just had a lot of regressive genes,
Maybe so. Maybe his father's like some 6'3" Titan. Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
Alex is looking it up.
Yeah, I'm looking up what he is doing.
Because it's just amazing to me. I mean, sure, I think Snyder could buy off some coach and, hey, let my kid play football. So the question is he a real football player?
Well, yeah, there is that. And one thing I'll say, in his defense is, if God forbid the Snyders still own this thing, at least his son will have played football, so he might have some better understanding of how to run a football team. Unlike Dan, who I don't think ever played an organized sport.
Jerry Richardson was an NFL player.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying,
I guess. Yeah.
There is that thing that they say that maybe a little hands-on experience will help.
Oh, so Snyder's son is at Appalachian State.
That's where he is. Thank you.
Which is the number one Division III program in the country.
Yeah, that's actually better than I thought.
Yeah.
I thought he was at some like even smaller school than that.
But again, so Jerry Snyder is his name, 6'2", 220.
Oh, okay, so he's a small guy.
Well, he's
for football terms,
a foot taller than his father.
That's true.
And he was a freshman this year, so I'm just amazed that Dan Snyder has a 6 foot tall kid. I really am. That's regressive genes at its best right there.
Yeah. So by the way, that means Jerry Snyder and I are the same size.
But he's obviously athletic to some extent.
Yeah.
Like, where'd that come from? Maybe
yeah.
Tanya. Maybe this is Tanya Snyder's side of the
family.
Well,
she's taller than Dan, right? Like, we've seen that.
Yeah, she's definitely taller than Dan. Maybe she's got athleticism in her half.
Yeah.
Maybe they just buried the Snyder genes and they got all the.
They're so rich that they did some like gene splicing.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
They engineered a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Boy, the team's just gonna really ban us from everything for this.
That's fine. We're already getting banned from everything. I don't care.
Oh, I know. It doesn't matter. I'm past caring at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Alex, let's wrap this up.
All right.
So what do you think is going to come of the Mary Jo White investigation?
Like I said, I'm not getting my hopes up, so I'm going to say a fat load of nothing comes out of it. Like they won't find anything. That's what I'm guessing.
I'm going to guess that she finds something, but it won't be anything big. I don't think an attorney like this is going to get hired, make a lot of money, write a report that's going to be public that just repeats what we already know. That's not what attorneys do. She's going to dig around and find something that makes it may be minor, but she's going to find something no matter what, because that's just not, I know investigative attorneys, and they're just not going to, she's not going to make a fool of herself because she has a reputation and she's the pit bull and all of that. Clearly, if she prosecutes John Gotti, she's going to dig something up on Dan Snyder.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one credit I'll give her, man. Like, she.
So do you think that Snyder's going to get gone as a result of this investigation?
I don't know if he'll get gone, though. No, I think that what they'll probably do is they'll say this is bad enough where we're formally suspending you now, and that'll be it. That's probably the worst case for him.
What does that mean to an owner, though?
I know. Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
But it looks good to them. They think it means something.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think there's a legitimate. I think the league owners are legitimately tired of him.
Yeah, I do too.
And I think they're trying to find a reason to tell him to go away. And so I think it's a higher chance than maybe you do, and maybe the public does, that she's going to find something that's enough. You know.
I think you could be right, but I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to get emotionally invested in, hey, Dan's finally gone until it happens.
I don't have any emotion about the team.
I know you don't.
So it's I'm trying to be as analytical as possible. I just think she's not going to do a report that says, yeah, this is what Tiffany said at Congress.
No, she won't do that.
Yeah.
All right. I think that wraps it up, though, for this week, guys.
Yeah.
Honestly.
We will start our much delayed, my stupidity, fault, lack of draft coverage will be next week.
Right. And hey, Steve, if we're still doing this in 3 or 4 years, we'll have to talk about where Gary Snyder's going in the draft.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That'll be wild.
You think Dan Snyder will draft his son?
Oh, you don't think he would?
Oh, I know for sure he would.
Yeah. He might be a 7th round pick, but he's drafted him.
Yeah, no matter if he's good enough or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think the coaching staff could cut him? No.
Yeah. Whoever's the coach is going to be forced to draft Dan Snyder's son. It's going to be so
person sad. Will be on the 53.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy, that would be just, very that would be the most Dan Snyder thing ever.
It would. I almost want him to stay just to see that train wreck.
Because it really would be. I mean, because a 6 foot tall, 200-pound tight end, granted he's a freshman, so add 30 pounds to him, 25, pounds, a little bigger, but he's still very undersized.
I think you'd have to move him to some kind of running back position at that size.
You'd have to, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, that should wrap us up this week. We will talk to you next week. Later.